I don't think I ever asked you, what do you usually eat?
Well,
I mean, we did have a joke about you eating shit.
Do you photosynthesize?
no, well, maybe partially, but I do believe I normally just eat whatever the kobolds cook now. Before, I used to eat nice meals prepared by an inn that I frequented.
Are you saying the kobolds' meals aren't nice?
Well, have you seen Jeremy cook?
You didn't realize he was right behind you, did you?
No, Jeremy, please stop crying. You already know that I don't really like your cooking because you burnt the last 2 meals you gave me.
Now we just have to figure out what it is in their pots that they're cooking.
Some of the kobolds are good cooks, but... Huh?
And also, whatever happened to all the goblins?
Hello?
Oh, somebody is here.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry if I was interrupting.
Oh, no worries. Say, it's always fine to interrupt Aya from there, but who might you be?
Rue, I think you and I are going to talk about manners at some point, but yes, please introduce yourself.
I'm sorry. I have very limited experience with dragons talking, and whatever being you are.
I am a Cephalodus Fey, a plant creature Fey, to put it simply.
Oh, of course, this Fae. Right. Yes, of course. That explains everything.
And don't worry about us dragons talking. We usually just ask a few questions and let you talk.
Right. This isn't one of those things where you ask me questions, and if it's not the right answer, you fry me.
No, I won't let them
Sorta.
fry anyone. Ephraim, don't make them worry. We don't fry our guests.
Well, we asked them questions. That part is right.
Yes, that part is right. If you're going to try to fry a guest, I will put you in the cage.
Why is the kobold crying?
I said I didn't like his cooking, and because he burnt the last 2 meals he gave me.
I don't think you're his favorite anymore.
Well, I still pay him more than I pay the others.
But anyway, my name is Ephraim, and we're the Delegation of Dreamers.
Yes, I am Rue, and...
I am Ashura.
Now, what was your name?
Arden. Sorry, this is new. I mean, I've had weird dreams before, but I'm trying. Yep, okay, right. 2 talking dragons and a plant fae, did you say?
Yes, put it simply.
Right. And it was Rue, was it?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Why am I here?
Well, I was going to ask you that very question. You seem to have just kind of appeared in our cave.
Do you get many people just appear in your cave?
A surprisingly large amount.
Yeah, too many.
More often than you think.
Okay, that is surprisingly comforting.
Normally, the idea is that we normally will bring people's consciousness here so we can ask them questions, but when people just appear, we also still ask them questions. So if you don't mind answering some questions for us.
All right, I suppose it can't hurt.
Let me just explain something real quick. You are in the realm of forgotten memories and dreams. One of the reasons that I ask people questions is so that they don't get forgotten when they pass away.
Right, and how do you do that?
Well, if somebody remembers you, even if it's here, you don't get forgotten unless they forget you. A way of keeping people who are interesting from completely vanishing from history.
A way of keeping them alive.
Yes, in a way.
All right.
If it makes it easier for you, just think of this as an elaborate dream.
I mean, this is not the most elaborate dream I've had, but fine. Yeah, I mean, why not? I'll bite.
All right, let's have the kobolds bring some tea and cookies. We can go on and start the interview.
We still need to go through those Kobold Scout cookies.
What? Why does the kobold cook?
Well, the kobolds are our servants. I pay them, and they do work for us. We have 3 kobolds that are normally cooks, and then Jeremy, who likes to try and cook from time to time. He's a good baker, but he's not good at cooking other things. I don't understand why, but that's kind of how it is.
Right.
The kobolds were doing fine mining without being paid before you came along.
Yes, but that was just cruel.
Ephraim, I'm going to be honest with you, I was paying them on the side.
So are they now getting paid double?
No, they're getting paid the normal amount. Rue and I had a conversation.
Yes.
Right. I mean, how much do kobolds get paid?
Well, it depends on which of the jobs they're doing. Jeremy gets paid 2 diamonds because he's my personal attendant, and
I'm sorry, you pay the kobolds in diamonds.
yes,
And gems.
the diamonds I pay Jeremy are worth about 500 gold altogether, and that's once a month because he doesn't really need all that much gold throughout the month because I basically pay for his food as well.
What do they do with the diamonds once you've given them?
I think they hoard them.
Ah, of course. Tiny little dragons.
But I just pay them in compliments. Oh, good job getting the tea, Jeremy.
Yes, Jeremy, thank you.
Yes. Pat pat.
Thank you.
So, is your name just Arden?
That's a family name. Technically, Van Arden is the family name. My first name is Sir.
Okay.
Interesting name. But,
Is it a big family, this Van Arden?
I wouldn't say the immediate family is quite large now. Probably quite small, but they do have, I don't know, spreaded relations. It's complicated.
Sounds like it.
Well, I don't know anymore. It's been a long time. I could be the only one left.
and why is that? Did you just leave and stop interacting with your family, or?
In fact, where are you from?
I haven't been home in a very long time. I don't really even have a home anymore. I would say these past 15 years have been very much from one place to another. I left home at a young age. I fell in with some monks. They took me in. They trained me. They opened my mind to things I never knew even possible. But even that comes to an end.
What started you on your journey?
That's a very broad question. I mean, most recently, I was sent to work and live in a monastery called Zimrica, southernmost tip of the world, Arctic wasteland. Nothing there but snow, ice, and dead people. That was the purpose of our monastery. Our monastery was to honor the dead, see to their last rites, and take care of them. I never understood why they sent me there, but I didn't argue. I was there for a very long time, and then one day I was out on assignment, and I came back, and the monastery had been swallowed by the ice. It was gone.
Oh my.
Everyone I knew with it. I spent years trawling all over Frohast, all over the continent, and nothing. Not a single one of my kinsmen.
What sort of monastery was it? Is it one of those that just writes books all the time?
No, well, yes. I mean, it depends on who you ask. Some of the brothers would do that, and sisters, especially a friend of mine, Darvel. He was very much a record keeper, you could say. There wouldn't be a single thing that wouldn't happen at Zimrica that he wouldn't write down. Maps, lists, orders, everything. Darvel knew it all. But no, it was more about the caring of the dead, the last rites, the protection of it, making sure that there were no abuses. If somebody had perished in a way that was unnatural, investigations would be taken into account. I mean, a lot of the monks were missionaries. The order would travel, would just help those that needed help, that couldn't help themselves, would be sent in groups to scour over the continents. However, Zimrica being placed where it was placed in Frohast, traveling that continent is very difficult. A lot of snow, ice, a lot of dangerous creatures. You can travel for weeks, and if you get caught without food, water, shelter, you freeze. It's an inhospitable place, not meant for people like us.
And where did you go after the monastery was swallowed?
I scoured the continent, looking for my kinsmen, trying to find anyone that's left. I sent word to Mordensol, which was the land bridge between the southern continent and the central continent of Gregdon. Anybody who passes from north to south must pass through Mordensol unless they're taking a very risky route across the ocean. I asked the registers there to see if anybody from any of the northern monasteries or Kreen, the central monastery, had come down to investigate or wonder why they hadn't heard from anybody recently in the coming years, and as far as I can tell, not a single person seems to have been bothered by the disappearance of Zimrica. Something that troubles me greatly. It makes me feel like they didn't really care about any of us at all. Discarded down to the south.
Well, you did put the monastery in the most inhospitable of places, so
I'm not sure it always used to be that way. The monastery itself is centuries old. I don't even know many people alive that know how old it is. But I've seen things. I've seen visions of the land the way it once was. Places that used to exist that no longer do. It wasn't always a frozen waste. Something changed.
Do you find out what changed it?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I have one guess. Things change all the time. Weather changes. Gregdon used to be a lush, green continent. Now most of it is just desert. As for Frohast, well, I don't really quite know what it was before, but I've just seen glimpses. However, there are the shards, these massive, giant crystals. There's a place in Frohast called Shardfall, the largest giant pink-reddish crystal you've ever seen in your entire life. Any dragon would be very jealous to have it as part of their hoard. However, its corruption is deadly. No one can get within a mile of it without dying. I thought it was the only one, but in our travels, me and my companions, we found Zimrica. We found what was left of it. And growing in the caverns and spreading across the continent, we keep finding more and more of these shards. Smaller, much smaller, but it seems to be spreading. I don't know whether they're the cause, but it doesn't feel right.
Are they spreading like you're growing everywhere, or are there actually people spreading them around?
Well, a friend of mine, I don't know why they would say this. I don't know how they know this. I thought I knew them, but strange things have happened recently. They were one person, and then they turned out to be two people. And there was something to do with a witch. Sometime when we met the other person, suddenly the two people became one people, and weird magic stuff happened, and suddenly they knew a lot of things that they didn't before. And one of them was that they believed that the crystals didn't spread themselves, but they were spread by us.
By you and your party?
No, by living, breathing creatures.
Hmm.
Anybody who comes into contact with it spreads it.
Didn't you say people died when they get too close to them?
Well, Shardfall, certainly. This thing is bigger than any castle or fortress you've ever seen. It's the size of a mountain. But these crystals that we keep encountering, some are the size of a wagon, some are no bigger than a marble. But even those can kill you if you touch them. When we were down in Zimrica, I found what was left of my brethren, and they weren't dead. They were transformed into these creatures, not undead, but something far, far more malicious. We think that the more time you're exposed to these crystals, these shards, they don't just kill you, but they change you. Somehow, my friend I mentioned earlier, Darvel, managed to secure himself away, managed to survive down there all these years, and, well, somehow he's not dead, but there seems to be one growing inside of him.
That doesn't sound good.
Nope.
And you said we. Are you referring to your party?
Yes, I travelled with a few people, but some of them we've lost along the way. There's a few of us left, but we're still trying to find out what these shards are, but more importantly, this seems to be spreading. The dead seem to be dominating the southern continent now. And while we believe the shards are responsible for them, there does appear to be a lich. And while we think the lich isn't making the undead, it seems to be able to control them, and it's raising armies. So we have to deal with one thing at a time before we can find out more about these shards. We have to stop this lich from wiping out the entire southern continent with an army of undead. So yeah, just another thing on the to-do list.
How do you go about meeting your party?
Well, I'd pretty much given up at that point. I was in a workhouse on one of the ice lakes, just looking for work to eat and stay alive. And we all got selected to escort a cart of frozen fish to the nearest city, Kanzax. And while we were traveling, the ice, it broke beneath us, and we fell into this cavern. And the caverns went deeper and deeper, full of myconoids and creatures that have never seen the light of day. And the deeper we went, the more we realized that some parts of this cavern were constructed. And I started to recognize it, Zimrica.
So why did the frozen fish want to go to another town?
Oh no, they were dead. They were food. They'd been fished from the frozen lake, were being sent to the city.
Why did they want to be escorted if they're dead?
No. The person selling the fish needed the fish to be escorted to the city, but they didn't want to take it themselves because, they were rich enough to not have to do it themselves. It's a very cold and long journey and not exactly comfortable.
How do you go about handling your first quest with them?
I wouldn't call us your typical adventurers. We don't look for signs on a notice board. We haven't gone looking for adventure. It just seems to keep happening. These wrongs with the world that we can't ignore. We just keep getting involved. We haven't got a copper to our names. We have very little money. Can't ignore it. It's about survival at this point.
Did you ever get that frozen fish out of the cave?
No, we didn't. I believe most of it is still down there.
That's why you're out of money. You never finished the quest.
Yes, yeah, our first quest we failed, you could say. But Nyala managed to pocket a few. She's a token tabaxi wizard. She can do some crazy things. She's a feisty one. But I'd rather her eat the fish than... Well, we came in contact with some cultists while we were down there, and while we made to make short work of them, we were also getting hungry. While most of my compatriots did not partake in the obvious cannibalism, Nyala insisted, well, it's not cannibalism for her because she's a tabaxi, so technically she could eat a person. Weird. I know, very weird, but I didn't know her so well back then.
I hope they don't do it on a regular.
Well, no, it's not like she can go to a tavern and ask for a loin of human male. It doesn't really work that way, but it was a case of...
Depending on the tavern.
Sorry?
Nothing.
Look, I think she just got a little bit of bloodlust, taking out some bandits and some cultists, got a little excited and a little bit hungry, and decided to try it. I mean, you're dragons, right? You've eaten people before, surely.
Yeah, I don't go around calling other species people. It will just get complicated. Suddenly a cow is a person, and a fish is a person.
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I tend not to eat anything that's...
Oh no, Rue, hide!
I mean, I'm also part non-plant. I'm just majority plant, so...
Don't worry, you're perfectly safe from me, and I tend to try to avoid sentient plants. But it's very hard these days to try and figure out what a sentient plant is, considering my wizard is able to talk to them.
See, now, because of your strange philosophy, now you're considering plants persons as well. So now what are you gonna eat?
Look, I try not to think about it too much. Enough crazy stuff happens to me already. I do not need to be losing any more of my sanity. I'm talking to two dragons and a plant fae in a cave while dreaming. I mean, my sanity is threadbare as it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you need strict rules.
Who needs sanity?
Only dragons are people.
Hey, Ephraim, you are pushing some buttons there.
I will put you in the cage.
No, Ashura is the one with the buttons on the thingamajig. I only have my book.
Anyway, I was going to ask, did you pick up any interesting magic items on your way, besides the few that it seems you have on your person?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. So, I mean, I have this little talisman, this little symbol, and in this moment it escapes me where I found it. It was down in Zimrica. We came across an armory where we armed ourselves. While everybody else was grabbing weapons, I found this. When I take a moment to clear my mind and meditate, it shows me glimpses, it shows me visions, sometimes of things that haven't happened yet, things that might not happen yet. And this one time I believe it showed me something that once was. That's why I know Frohast never used to always be a frozen waste. We were on this island surrounded by a frozen lake, and we were looking for a tower, but the tower wasn't there anymore, so I held onto the talisman and I focused and showed me where the tower once was, and this beautiful landscape that is no longer there.
Was there any ruins of the tower?
Oh, yes. There were people in there. That's where the weird magic thing happened with my friend, where two people became one people. That got really confusing very, very quickly. But they seem to have a lot of knowledge. But it was a shell of what this place once was. They were just using it as shelter.
So you have an item that lets you see into the future and the past. That is a very useful tool. It reminds me of something from the realm I come from, but I cannot remember what the item was called in my realm. But you have a few other items on you that seem to be magic in origin. Would you mind telling me a bit about them?
Oh, there's the sword. The one with the black blade. It belonged to my mentor, my friend. The one who found me when I was a boy. He gave me this sword when I was out on assignment. Told me I might need it. And when I returned to Zimrica and Zimrica was gone, well, I hope one day to return it to him. We found papers and maps down beneath in the chambers, and one of which was missionary routes. and one of them said that Arden, my mentor, was going on a missionary route to a continent called the Canoes, somewhere where we don't send people anymore because it's far too dangerous, and not because of creatures, but because of the people that inhabit it. So we tend not to go there, but for some reason he went there. So maybe he's still alive. Maybe one day I will be able to give him his sword back. I had a ring. I don't have it anymore. I gave it to Nyala. It's good for getting me out of tight scrapes, but I felt like she needed it more, so I gave it to her. And then when I get up close and personal with things, sometimes it's best to have a bit of protection. So I have these braces, and they try and protect my wrists and my arms and give me a little bit more defense than I normally do. And then there's the sled. The sled was a gift. We defended a city from a dragon and a lich. There was a lot of destruction. I say that we saved the city. A lot of it is very severely damaged, and there's a lot of people dead. So, I mean, it wasn't exactly a victory, but it wasn't exactly a loss either. It could have gone a lot worse, is all I'm saying. But when we said we were going to go off and try and find out more about the lich and try and stop it, the city seemed so grateful that they gave us this sled. And, I mean, we thought it was just a sled, but when you go in the hatch in the cart and the back of the sled, it's much, much bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And for some reason, it came with a cat called Godfrey, and he's a little arsehole. And one day, we went back and he exploded, and instead of one cat, he's now 5 cats. So if you know any way to get rid of exploding cats that multiply, I will be very, very grateful.
That's a new one.
I think most cats explode into more cats.
I don't believe that I've ever heard of exploding cats turning into more cats. Usually when cats explode, it's viscera and disgusting gore.
Oh, you horrible person, Rue.
Look, I don't even know why it exploded. He just exploded randomly one day, and then there was 5 of him.
I've heard of exploding kittens. It's not a bad card game, but I haven't heard of exploding cats.
Well, either way, he just won't leave us alone. We tried to get rid of him a few times, but now he just sticks with us. Thankfully, he's not interested in my food. He keeps having to fight Nyala for the fish. Also, Nyala talks to him now and again, and apparently he's as much of an arsehole as I think he is.
Well, it's good to get some confirmation, at least.
Well, yeah. I mean, some people tell me I'm a cat person, but just because I'm walking around with a tabaxi wizard and I have 5 cats in my sled does not mean I'm a cat person.
Yeah, you look more just regular human.
No, I didn't. Okay, yes, all right. Yeah, I am.
Ephraim, when someone says that a person is a cat person, it does not always mean that they are literally a cat person. Sometimes it just means that they like cats.
Technically, Nyala is a cat person.
I love my cats. They're fluffy and adorable.
Yes, and they seem to be sleeping and behaving properly right now.
At least this time.
Yes, I remember the time when they scratched me. It was not very pleasant.
You're the one playing with the tentacles and weren't using a toy.
I mean, still, the little bastard decided to scratch me up. Anyway, you just mentioned this sled.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, a few of my party members have some interesting bits and pieces as well. Some I don't know much about. Yeah, that's about all I have.
So, was the monastery named Simrica?
Yes, that's the one in Frohast. That's the one I spent most of my time. I was trained in Korean, which is, I mean, you could call it the capital of the monasteries of Earl, but after my training there, they sent me south to Frohast in Simrica.
Do you worship any deities?
Not really. We're not exactly a divine bunch. We focus more on the fact that people have the power and the strength to sustain themselves. That divine intervention isn't needed if you can take care of your own.
Plus, I think the gods would be a lot more grateful to you if you took care of yourself before asking them.
Well, when things got bad, after I lost Zimrica, when the dragon was attacking Kakanzax, which is the city that we were delivering the fish to, I got desperate. I started asking for help. From anyone, anything. I don't know much about the gods. But if this planet is to survive, then we're going to need all the help that we can get. And I don't know who answered. I can only assume it was Melora. I was standing on the roof of her cathedral at the time. But trust me, it was complete coincidence. I wanted to... At that point, I had a shard in my hand, well, wrapped up, because I can't touch it, because otherwise it kills me. But I was standing on top of this cathedral, and I was going to jump on the dragon and try and stab it with the shard. But I kind of tripped as I went over the edge, and I kind of missed the dragon and hit the ground, but I still managed to stab the dragon once we got it on the ground and we killed it. What was I saying? Oh, yes, no, it was the Cathedral of Melora. And apparently the priest says I have some kind of healing gift. So, yeah, I seem to have these abilities that other people would call divine, but I don't really fully understand them all.
Why did you murder a dragon?
Okay, look, in our defense, it was attacking the city, it was killing a lot of people. It was only later on that we found out it was being blackmailed by a lich because the lich had its children. But we didn't know that at the time. And the white ones tend to be nastier than the others.
You can't get mad at cats for scratching you when they play, and you can't get mad at dragons for burning down villages. That's just...
Look, there's a little bit of a difference between a little nip that heals within a day compared to, I don't know, 2,000 dead people burning in the street.
Well, you say people, but
Well, not burning in the street this time, actually frozen, but still.
I say humans.
Ephraim, I am going to put you in a eternal cage, one you cannot get out of if you do not stop.
Look, I don't want to dispute any kind of politics that you guys might have between Fae and dragons here, but look, where I come from, dragons are not nice. I'm yet to have come across a single nice one. In fact, I've only ever come across one, and it wasn't nice.
Are we not?
You two seem different. You seem a little bit more civilized.
Oh, it depends on the dragon, and it depends on the situation.
I mean, most people are civilized, but there's a lot of bad ones out there too. But not most of people aren't capable of breathing a massive ice cloud over you and killing dozens at a time.
I mean, you got a lich doing that, don't you?
Well, technically the lich just pointed at one of our friends and they turned to dust. But,
Oh,
I mean, I say for the term friend loosely. They were somebody that was traveling with us, but I didn't exactly have much fondness for that individual. I didn't wish death upon them, though. But it happened anyway.
Dealing with liches is always problematic, unless you're dealing with an, what is it called? An arc lich? There's some liches that are not evil, but they are very rare and few between.
To be honest, we didn't know we were dealing with a lich until it came flying out of the sky, and there was also a dragon there. It was a very stressful situation. Like, we didn't realize it was even a lich until the point where it literally pointed its finger at one of our friends and destroyed him. Well, her.
Disintegration, not a fun thing to deal with.
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun.
You said that the dragon was being blackmailed by the lich, correct?
I mean, that's oversimplifying it, but yes.
Are you going to free the children of the dragon once you go and beat the lich?
I've got a feeling that the lich, if anything, will try and use the young drakelings, dragonlings, whatever you call them, against us. If they're being controlled against their will, then I wouldn't want to kill them, but if we don't have any choice, like their mother, then we will have to.
That is fair.
If we can destroy the lich first and free them without them deciding to attack us anyway, then yes, we will. I will never kill anything unless I have to.
except for plants.
Ephraim,
He said he was a vegetarian, okay?
yes, but it is.
He kills plants
He has to eat something.
without regrets.
Circle of life and all that.
Yes. But Ephraim, I'm going to put you in a box. It's going to be a very small box. You're barely going to fit.
We fit a dragon in a box once.
Then he's going to put that box in a bigger box, and then he'll put that box in a bigger box, and then he'll mail it to himself.
I was trying not to laugh. I know that one.
Big dragon, little dragon cardboard box.
So, how did Darvel become so resistant to these crystals?
I mean, I don't know. I think he kind of went a little bit insane. He was a broken person when we found him. It took a long while to bring his mind back to us. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that he had proven himself in the trials and was enlightened, his body wouldn't have lasted as long as it did.
Sorry, what trials?
Oh, those of the order that yearn to be wise and balanced in the mental and physical abilities have to prove themselves. Only the Circle of Kareen oversee the trials, and only those that pass know what they are. And it's through the process of these trials does one reach enlightenment. And with enlightenment, you are able to sustain yourself. Wouldn't need to be vegetarian, wouldn't need to eat plants, wouldn't even need to eat rocks. I would be able to sustain myself with my own life energy. And it is these few of the Order that have achieved that. Darvel was one of them. And I think it's for that very reason that he survived all that time down in the ruins.
Would you say that that's a step to be even more pacifistic, to not even eat plants, to not eat anything? Is that your goal?
I wouldn't say it's about being pacifistic. Even the most enlightened and wise of the Order still have strength and still fight for those that need to be protected. It's only fighting when you need to, not when you want to. I find very little choice in the travels that I've had where I've been given the option not to fight. And yet that doesn't bring me enlightenment. So I'm unsure of what these trials are. Years ago, I could have read every scroll, repeated every verse, showed you every move, had deep meditative states for weeks. I thought I was ready for them. And it was on the eve of my trials, when I was sent on my route, that when I came back, that Zimrica was gone. I never managed to find out what the trials were. And to be honest, if Kareen had not sent help, or even intend to find out what has happened to Zimrica, I'm not sure I ever want to again.
And through all of your journeys, through the trials and venturing, what's been one of your most difficult quests?
We were trapped down in Zimrica for the best part of nearly 2 weeks, finding our way out in the dark, fighting creatures, trying to piece together the puzzles, finding the shards, coming across cultists, finding my friend Darvel, running from hordes of my old friends, twisted and corrupted, seeing the people you used to count as family, now trying to peel the very flesh off of you. That's a challenge, and something I will never forget.
What about one of your more embarrassing moments?
I don't know about embarrassing, but certainly shameful. When we got to Kakanzax, Daniela knew a person at an inn, well, an innkeeper called Tris, and she'd worked with her before and said if we helped around the inn, then we'd have some lodgings. There was a festival to the Melora going on at the time, and we were helping stock the larders with wines and cheese. My friend Rook, big hairy bugbear, very intimidating guy, but with a heart of gold, he was carrying these wheels of cheese up back and dropped one, and it started rolling down the street. Look, I don't know what possessed me in this moment, but I thought, hey, I'll throw a dagger at it to knock it over so it stops rolling and then he can just pick it up. But I threw the dagger and I didn't hit cheese. I hit one of the lords of Kakanzax.
Who hit a lord?
Well, I almost killed him. I managed to stabilize him, and then I took him back to the inn and I tried to get help. But then again, just like many people beforehand, he turned out to be an asshole too. Not a nice guy. Terrible to his niece, terrible to his sister. He was a vile person. He was awful.
I don't think I would be much better if I was just hit by a knife.
Well, we came up with a plan to just knock him out and hide him in an alley and hope that he didn't remember us all.
How'd that go?
Look, I couldn't take the risk. We just got to the city. We had a lot to do. We had to travel. We had to get north. We had to warn people about what was happening. Couldn't do that if all my friends were in a prison cell. I did what I had to do to protect them.
You killed him.
I made sure that myself and Stin, the elf that's now dead, that was killed by the Lich.
And you haven't been caught?
Well, it turns out he wasn't exactly loved by the people either, so I don't think there was much of an investigation into his death.
Haha, but we got your admission now. Now we got you. Grab him. No, I'm just kidding. We don't care.
Ephraim, I'll put you in the cage before I put him. He's killed a dragon.
I mean, I didn't kill the dragon on... Well, I did kill the dragon on purpose, but I didn't know what was going on with the dragon, okay? I didn't know it was being blackmailed and had its children hostage.
Don't worry. If the dragon attacks first, then I'm not gonna whine about you killing it.
Okay.
In all fairness, we've had plenty of people come in who've mentioned killing dragons, and Ephraim generally always gives them a load of crap for it before saying that he doesn't really care.
Maybe dragons are different from where we come from compared to where you guys are from.
Yeah, I mean humans are different too, in that place.
I mean, I don't know any humans from lands of the Fae or wherever you are from.
Well, where I'm from, humans aren't even persons.
What, we're cattle?
No, they're just like mindlessly farming and eating. What do they eat? Beets, potatoes.
So they're not mindless if they're farming, then they are sentient and have some kind of intelligence, right?
Barely,
Listen, don't you diss on potatoes.
Look, you can cook a potato in many different ways.
Well, say that to our kobolds.
It's one of the most versatile vegetables there are. I mean, I can show you kobolds a thing or two. I'm not the best chef in the world, but I know how to handle a potato.
You can also get drunk off them, too.
I tend to avoid that. I don't partake in alcohol.
It's not for everyone.
It's especially not for you if you happen to get drunk easily. So that's why I tend to avoid alcohol.
And that's why the kobolds should avoid them too.
Yep, the kobolds definitely should avoid it. Jeremy gets drunk off of one cup, one of the smaller cups.
He's a 1-cup kobold.
Yes, I'm from a different plane than you are from. I don't have any of the continents or cities that you have mentioned, but I just wanted to point out that in the world I come from, dragons are not entirely common, but they're mostly good dragons. There's one notably evil one. But I do have one last question that I'd like to ask before I leave the floor. The rest of them, the other two, I believe we're running low on time.
Leave the floor. You're already floating in the air.
Ephraim, do you want to go in the box?
You keep speaking about this box, but where is the box?
It's in the back.
I create it.
It's a metaphorical box.
No, this one's one I can create with magic.
If it was a metaphorical box, we could never get you in it.
No, I'm usually scared of dragons, but I find this one scarier than you two. I'm terribly sorry.
Yes.
Oh, it's understandable.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't help that I can use basically any magic you can imagine, so creating a box that a dragon can't get out of is not too hard to do.
Could you fix my home and get rid of the crystals and get rid of all the undead and kill a lich for me?
If I ever go to your realm, I possibly could.
Let's make a date.
Yeah, the crystals might be a bit tough. I don't know how they were created, so I don't know if I can actually get too close to them. But, alas, I'm kind of stuck here at the moment. I can normally go between realms, but I have things that keep me from going to other realms right now. But my last question is, if you could become a god, would you want to? And what would you be the god of, if so?
If I was a god, I've never even thought about that. I'd want to be a god of the other gods and ask them why they aren't taking care of the people they seem to have worshipping at their feet. Why did they let their children suffer and die and needlessly scrape for a living? There are no lessons in dead children.
That there are not. You are quite a considerably intelligent person to choose such a thing. Not many people think about that one. Most people are like, I'd like to protect all the people of the world or such, but being a god who can just be like talking to other gods and say, oh, you're not doing your job. Well, time to go would be a good position to have.
I believe we should wrap it up. But it was lovely having you. And hopefully we can have you here again someday.
If I have this same dream, then why not?
We'll be sure to provide you with something that the kobolds haven't cooked. But until then, have a good awakening.